sound of horses' hooves tramping through gravel, the creaking of carriage wheels. The year was 1749. Carl von Linné found himself travelling through Sweden's most southern province. He had been appointed by the government to carry out an inventory of Skåne's natural resources and industry. And who was more suited to the assignment than a prominent scientist such as Linné? During the 18th century, society was awash with a strong utilitarian way of thinking, and science, my friend, was at its service.
The journey through Skåne was by horse and carriage. On his previous provincial journeys, Linné had travelled by horseback, but age and infirmity called for greater comfort. By his side was his assistant, Olof Söderberg. They helped each other to make notes along the journey and write clear copies of these in the evenings.
On the 27th of May, year 1749, Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg, came to Forsakar. Linné's journal contains the following entry. Forsakar is the name of a high waterfall issuing from the woodland, a fair distance from where the river runs out of the woodland into the plain.
The fall is some 10 meters high. According to Linné's journal, it compares two sides of the valley to the walls of the church.
Linné observed the presence of wild balsam and yellow dead nettle, both plants which still adorn this place.
On the 31st of July, the year 1749, Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg, came to the stone known as Maglesten.
In account of the journey, the following may be read.
Maglesten lay beside the road and on the north side by Trollebo, 15 ells long, 12 wide and 10 high, like a spectacle here in the country.
According to history, a troll had thrown the stone to prevent the building of Åhus church.
Undeniably, the troll was a poor church wrecker, missing his target by tens of kilometers.
The stones that give rise to this local folklore is more correctly a narrative boulder from the Ice Age.
Carl von Linné is probably Sweden's most famous scientist. With his sexual system, he made it easier for researchers to determine the species of plants, an important work in a time of a utilitarian way of thinking and explorations, when large quantities of species were collated in Sweden and distant countries. The system created a summary of biological diversity. The two-name principle, binary nomenclature, was also one of Linné's successful ventures that achieved international recognition. Linné introduced it to avoid having to use the long and complicated scientific names that had previously been used for both plants and animals. Instead, he gave every species a genus name and a species name. This name-giving system is still used to this day. Linné was born in 1707 in the Småland county town of Roshult. After university studies in Lund and Uppsala, he soon became internationally recognized. He was an active scientist and doctor. He became a professor and a recognized university teacher in Uppsala, but also managed to marry and father 7 children with his wife, Sarah Elisabeth. He carried out several expeditions within Sweden and lived abroad for a period of 3 years. He died in 1778 after several years of ill health.
Journal, he compares two sides of the valley to the
On the 31st of July, 1749, Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg, came to the stone known as Maglesten. On the 31st of July, Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg. On the 31st of July, the year 1749, Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg, came to the stone known as Maglesten.
An account of their journey, the following may be read. Fan, jag ska ju...
Maglesten.
The stones that give rise to this local folklore is more correctly as the bog.
Carl von Linné and his secretary, Olof Söderberg, passed the stone known as Maglesten.
According to history, the following may be read.
Undeniably, the troll was a poor church wrecker, missing his target by 10. According to
Linné observed the presence of wild balsam and yellow dead nettle, both plants which still adorn this place. Linné observed the presence of wild balsam and yellow dead nettle, both plants which Linné observed the presence of wild balsam, Linné observed the presence of wild balsam and yellow dead nettle.